On 13th of January 2012, the world's largest Italian cruise ship began a 7-day European trip. The ship was named Costa Concordia. It was even larger than the Titanic. It could accommodate 2,000 more people than Titanic. A total of 4,252 people were on board. The cruise offered extensive entertainment options. There were 4 swimming pools, 5 restaurants, and 13 bars. It also had a casino and a basketball court. The gym area featured with Turkish bath. An F1 racing simulator was also installed. The first stop was Savona, Italy, a day's journey away. But only 2.5 hours after departure, a loud crash was heard. Suddenly, all the ship's lights went out. The ship began to tilt. It was 9:45 p.m. Some passengers were dining. People rushed out to see what was happening. Plates began sliding from tables due to the tilt. An intercom announcement blamed an electrical issue. But in reality, the engine had failed. The captain hid this truth from passengers. Soon the ship leaned to the opposite side. Passengers sensed this wasn't a normal power failure. Many feared another Titanic-like disaster. Ironically, Titanic sank 100 years earlier, in 1912. At that moment, the Titanic theme song was playing on board. The ship kept leaning further to the right. Water started flooding the lower decks. Passengers realized the ship was sinking, yet they weren't given proper information. Why was the captain staying silent? Remember the name Captain Schettino? He's central to this story. At 7:18 p.m., the ship left for Savona. Just 2 hours later, it strayed from its planned route. This wasn't an error. It was intentional. Schettino wanted to pass near Giglio Island, Italy. He hoped the islanders would admire the illuminated ship at night. Large ships usually stay 7 to 8 kilometers from shore due to deep water needs. But this ship came within just 150 meters of the coast. At that distance, underwater rocks or reefs are a danger. It was also dark, and the ship was moving at high speed. Soon, the ship hit underwater rocks. The impact tore open the ship's hull. It left a 70-meter gash in the Concordia. Water rushed into the ship quickly. At 9:52 p.m., the engineering crew tried to start the emergency generator. They failed. The chief engineer reported the situation to Captain Schettino, but the captain told passengers it was only a power outage. Meanwhile, the ship kept moving, further from the island. Around 10 p.m., Schettino decided to turn the ship back. He thought it was safer to stay near land in case of sinking, so the ship made a U-turn. It began to tilt in the opposite direction. Captain Schettino admitted his error, but then made it worse by trying to cover it up. He blamed a blackout for the crash. In reality, the crash caused the blackout. Every passing minute made the situation worse. The ship was leaning more and more. Finally, a general emergency was declared. Soon after giving the abandon ship order, chaos broke out. By now, the ship had tilted 30 degrees. Captain Schettino left the ship early. Despite being in command, he ran to a lifeboat and escaped while hundreds were still trapped. In the early phase of evacuation, between 2,500 to 3,300 people managed to reach the island safely. But by 11:38 p.m., nearly 400 passengers were still inside. Rescue boats and helicopters from the Coast Guard had arrived. They managed to save hundreds more from underwater, but no one knew how many were still trapped. Meanwhile, rescue operations continued for over 2 weeks. The Italian Navy, Coast Guard, and fire services were all involved. Rescue divers had to be called in. Cabin doors couldn't be opened from the inside due to high water pressure. On 14th January, a South Korean couple was rescued after being trapped in their cabin. Most victims died in this same way. Locked in, unable to escape, they drowned. Had they been warned sooner, many lives could have been saved. In total, 32 people lost their lives in this accident. After the rescue, the next concern was the fuel. The ship still contained around 1.9 million liters of it. A special tanker was used to store the extracted oil. This operation lasted until 24th March. The next phase was even more complicated. The ship had to be straightened and moved. Engineers built a steel platform underwater. Massive watertight tanks, called caissons, were attached. Water was filled in them to weigh down one side. Ropes and steel cables were used to pull the ship upright. This began on September 16, 2013, and took 19 hours to complete. Even more money and manpower were needed to scrap it. Over 350 people worked on dismantling the ship. Then came the lawsuits. Each survivor was refunded their ticket price. Families of the deceased were also compensated. but the exact amount was never made public. In total, the Costa Concordia disaster cost the company $2 billion. And what about Captain Schettino, the man who lied to everyone and abandoned his passengers? Even in court, he didn't stop lying. He claimed that when the ship tilted to 60 to 70 degrees, he accidentally fell into a lifeboat. He said the ship shipped him off. No one believed this excuse. The judge rejected it outright. In 2017, he was convicted of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison.